Hello everyone. In the part 1 of the video, we have looked at what is App Engine, what are the different versions of App Engine, the standard and the flexible. So in this video, we're going to see how to deploy an application using App Engine and how to view the status of an application from a App Engine console. Understand the different scaling options, how to split the traffic, and also how to migrate traffic from one version to another version. So this is going to be the part 2 of the video, and this is going to be important from the exam's perspective too. So we need to first log into GCP Console. So either you can search for GCP Console from Google or the URL is pretty straightforward, console.cloud.google.com. So when you log in to this console for the first time, you will have a default project. So basically project is nothing but it's like a AWS account. So all the resources reside inside a project. Now when I select the project drop down, I can see two projects here. So my first project, which was my default project, where I have created an application in App Engine, and I also, for the sake of the demo, I have created another project which is YouTube demo. Right, so you can switch around from one project to another project through this drop down. And if I click on the hamburger symbol and go to App Engine, you're going to see this welcome to App Engine page. Since we haven't created any application in this, so you're going to see this page, and if you already have an application, then you would see an application which is created for App Engine. Now we have two options. Either we do create an application from the browser, from the console, or create the application from the Cloud Shell. I would prefer the second option because like I've said, in the exam you will see a lot of questions on the Cloud Shell commands. So that's why it is better for us to practice more and more how to create applications in App Engine using the Cloud Shell, how to stop them, how to scale them, and bunch of other things that we want to do. So every section in GCP has this small tutorial on the right side. So this is one way of practicing every service before you go to the exam, if you want to just quickly understand what the service will do. Now I have to activate my Google Cloud Shell. So you see an icon here on the top right hand side. So click on this icon. So it has a persistent volume. So for your GCP account, you will have a Cloud Shell VM created when you log in for the first time, and it has the same amount of, it has the same volume which will be persisted for across your projects. So what I'm trying to say is that you can use one Cloud Shell for multiple projects. So I'm going to open this in a new window. All right. Now, if you see here, it says that to set your cloud platform project in this session, use gcloud config set project. By default, here in the Cloud Shell, it did not set any project. So we can set the project where I have created a new project, and I'm going to use that project to, create my application. So the command here is gcloud config, because we are trying to change the configuration parameters. You can relate this to your git config, where you can set up few configuration parameters. So we're going to set up the gcloud config for whole session. Set project, and project ID is something you can retrieve from here. This is the project name. So project name can be changed, but always remember project ID is unique. You cannot change this once you have set this. And this is the project ID. Copy, paste it here. All right. Once that command is successfully executed, you would see the project ID here set, which means that whatever we do here will be reflected in that project. So once we have set the project, the next thing that we want to do to install or to provision an application in App Engine is install App Engine components. So basically, so what this does is it tries to download all the libraries for App Engine when we're trying to install it. And the command is this one, gcloud components install App Engine Python. So since I'm going to demo you guys on Python using a sample hello world, I'm trying to install the Python libraries. So this command is to install the App Engine Python libraries, and all components are up to date. So I do not have to worry about anything else at this point of time. So the next thing what we have to do is we have to get the sample files from the public GitHub. So Google has a public GitHub where it maintains all the App Engine or related stuff, where we can download all those things. And this is the URL. So I'm going to put all these links and commands in the description. Now if you go to this GitHub URL, you will see different sample applications for different services. For instance, for App Engine, they have flexible, standard, and Python 3.7 and the standard Python 2.7. And we're going to use standard Python 2.7 for the sake of the demo. Okay, so the command is a common command, git clone command, to get all the files here to our Cloud Shell, which I've done it before. But what I can do is I can remove the stuff, readme, and do a git clone. Alright, so now I have Python doc sample. So we're going to go to the directory. So there are 3 files inside the directory. So app.yml, main.py, and then main_test.py. So always remember that app.yml is the main file when you're trying to deploy. So if you look at these contents, you will see a runtime, API version, thread safe, which is set to true. This is only for Python 2.7, and the handlers and the script. So main.py has the basic logic. I'm going to change this slightly. And write something like this. Now we have got all the files for hello world for this demo. Now I'm going to deploy this application. So the command to deploy the application is gcloud app deploy app.yml. Now you don't have to specify app.yml because this is the default file that this deploy command would pick up. And if you have something else, let's say that instead of app.yml you have file.yml or hello world.yml, then you have to specify the file here. Else if you just give gcloud app deploy, it will pick up the app.yml file, which is the only existing file in this directory, and install the application. Now it is showing us what are the services to deploy, and target project, target service, which is default, and the target version. So if you do not specify any version while running this command, it picks up a random version. And this is the target URL, and this is going to be the URL for your application, for your web application. Do you want to continue? Maybe I'll just click on no for now, and then I'll show you guys the other things that you can see. Let's say you want to pass more parameters. you can always go to the help section and see what are the parameters that you can pass for gcloud app deploy. There are three important parameters that you can pass. The one important parameter is version. So like I've said, if you do not specify any version, it will pick the default version. It will just randomly create one. It's always a good practice to have a custom version ID. If you do have that, then you specify the version ID. For instance, I can do something like this. Let me clear this off. Gcloud app deploy -- version. Version v1. Okay, so I gave it as a version v1. Now you can see the target version is v1, and if you have seen my previous command, it showed me a default version, or it showed me a random version that it has picked up. Now if you want to continue, yes, so it's running the deployment of the service, which is a default service, and it is trying to upload 4 files to Google Cloud Storage. So Google Cloud Storage, think of it as a staging area. So all the 3 files will be staged here before they will be used to deploy the application. So it hardly took like few seconds, and then it already deployed application. And we can always look at the logs of the application by using this command gcloud app logs tail s. Since default is a service, you just have to mention the service name here. And gcloud app browse, we can give this command here and see the URL of the application. Alright, so our app is up and running. The command that we passed in the Python file, hello cloud advocates, there is a small spelling mistake here, but basically this took hardly like few seconds to deploy an application. This is the beauty of a platform as a service, or a serverless compute. You don't have to worry about the servers here. We don't have to worry about any VMs that we want to create to deploy an application. We just have to worry about the application, the files, and then we are good to go. We can onboard an application and it is live for live traffic. This is how simple it is to create an App Engine app application. Now, since we have done here from Cloud Shell, let's navigate from the web. All right, let me refresh this. One bad thing with GCP is that it caches pretty badly, and you have to maybe refresh multiple times to see what's going on. All right, so now I've refreshed multiple times, and you have seen that the welcome page is gone and the dashboard has come up with our current application. So we have version 1, which is taking 100% of the traffic, and this is where you would see, like if there is any load or any requests that are coming in, it will show up here. If I start hitting this maybe for a few seconds, and here we should be able to see something after some time. And services, we have only one service with version 1, and there are 1 versions with 1 instance which has some amount of RAM, and the total requests so far to this instance are 19. Okay, so if you want to disable the application, you can click on disable application here, and that will stop serving, that will stop the whole application, which means that if this is a live application where users are hitting the application from browser, once you disable the application, they cannot access this application. So these are the important things. So we have a service and we have versions. We can deploy multiple versions. Now I'm going to deploy another version as well. I'm going to show you how it shows up here. So going back to the Cloud Shell, let's say that I'm going to modify this one and add the right spelling. Save it. gcloud app deploy version v2. So it is going to deploy in the target service, which is default, and it is going to deploy as version v2. We'll discuss about setting traffic split and all in few minutes. Right, so when I did refresh, you can see that version 2 picked up immediately and it showed me the right spelling, which wasn't the case for my previous version. So if you go to the web and refresh this, you can see that version 2 is up, and there is a bug here. It's not a bug, but like I've said, it caches pretty badly, and sometimes it doesn't show up the right number of instances. Ideally it should show up one instance here as well. If you click on this, you will see there is one instance, but it doesn't show up there. But anyways, the point here is like you have version 2 which is up, and then it is also serving the traffic, and it is allocated 100%. So if you want to see version 2, or rather version 1 which we have deployed before, you can see the difference. We had a spelling mistake in the version 1 which was fixed in version 2. Okay, now if you go back to the services, there are two versions for the default service, and the number of instances are 1. There is one instance which is currently serving for version 2. So the next important topic what we're going to discuss is about the scaling App Engine applications. We have seen the instances are created, and it is the instances are actually serving the live traffic right now. So when instances are scaled based on the load, they are called the dynamics instances. So which means that the instances, we don't have to manage them, they are scaled automatically based on the load. Alternatively, we can also configure our instances to be resident or running all the time. So they are optimized for performance, so users will wait less while an instance is started. So our configuration determines whether an instance is a resident or a dynamic. If you configure auto scaling or basic scaling, then instances will be dynamic. If you configure manual scaling, then your instances will be resident. To specify automatic scaling, add a section to app.yml that includes the term automatic scaling followed by key value pairs of configuration options. So there are some important parameters that we want to pass if you want to set our application as an automatic scaling. So some of the important parameters are target underscore CPU underscore utilization, target underscore throughput underscore utilization, max underscore current underscore requests, max underscore instances, min underscore instances, max underscore pending latency, min underscore pending underscore latency. So these are some important configuration options that might be asked in the exam, but it's always good to remember these. I'll explain one by one. So what exactly is each option? Let's say that we have set target underscore CPU underscore utilization in the app.yml file while trying to set up the automatic scaling. So that option specifies the maximum CPU utilization that occurs before adding additional instances. So target throughput utilization specifies the maximum number of concurrent requests before additional instances are started. This is specified as number between 0.5 and 0.95. So maximum concurrent requests specifies the max concurrent requests an instance can accept before starting a new instance. So the default is 10, the max is 80. Again, these options are also available in the gcloud documentation if you want to go through them, but they are pretty straightforward. By going by the definition, by going by the name of the option itself, you can just understand what is the definition of that. So maximum and minimum instances indicates the range of number of instances that can run for this application. Maximum and minimum latency indicates the maximum and minimum time a request will wait in the queue to be processed. So let's say that you want to specify an automatic scaling in the app.yml file. We would go here and write automatic underscore scaling, and let's say I want to set a target CPU, target underscore CPU underscore utilization. Okay, and this 0.665. So when I do this and I deploy my application, this means that my application instances, like before we have seen in the browser, in my GCP console, there was one instance running, right? So based on the traffic, let's say that the instance has reached 65% of CPU load, right? Then the next instance will spin up automatically. So this is automatic scaling. So we do not have any control of how many number of instances that we want to keep, or how many number of instances that are required for our application. It is completely managed by Google, or rather by the App Engine. This is how you're going to enable the automatic scaling. Now let's say that we want to enable a basic scaling. Right? So the basic scaling, to enable that, we just need two parameters. One is idle underscore timeout and max underscore instances. So instead of automatic scaling, you're going to give it as basic scaling. And the parameters are idle underscore timeout and max underscore instances. So if for any reason we want to have a manual scaling, so that's when we would use manual scaling here instead of basic scaling. So in manual scaling, we can specify the number of instances that are always run. Let's say that you can predict your traffic and you want certain number of instances always running for your application. So you can specify the number of manual instances, and then set it as like instances :7. So that will be enough. That will be enough to keep your instances, like 7 number of instances, always running while serving your traffic. So we have seen how to install an application. So what are the different parameters that are required for scaling? So the third topic for this section is splitting traffic between App Engine versions. This is one of the important topic, and I do remember that I think I got some questions around this. So how do you split the traffic? So the command to split the traffic between two versions. So gcloud app services set traffic service 1. This is a command that I picked up from, I think, documentation, but you might have to give it as a default. -- splits v1, which is for version 1, 40%, and version 2, 60%. Remember this command. This is very important, guys. So basically gcloud app engine set -traffic, the default is the service name, and splits is basically you are splitting the traffic for versions 1 and version 2, because we have only 2 versions so far, right? So we're going to split 40% of the traffic for v1 and 60% of the traffic for v2. Now if you go to the services here, and versions, refresh, you can see that the command has executed successfully, and v2 is serving 60% of the traffic and v1 is serving 40% of the traffic. And there are 2 instances currently. In previous case, there might be 0 instance for v1 because there was no traffic that was going to v1. But now since we have split it, there is 1 instance which is automatically created here. And you can see the spike as we have tried to refresh our page here, and then it showed up here. So this is good. So we have 2 versions. So that's one important thing while splitting up the traffic. So the other important command is migrate. If you want to migrate from one version to another version, so the command is ---- migrate. So that will migrate all the traffic from v1 to v2, and this will be useful, let's say, when you want to migrate v2 from v1 to v2, like your typical blue-green deployment, and then shut off v1 completely, or disable v1. These are all the important things for App Engine perspective. If you thoroughly practice App Engine after watching my part 1 and part 2 videos, you should be confident, and you should be able to answer any question in GCP Associate exam related to App Engine. Alright, so with this, I'll conclude my second video on App Engine, and I hope you guys understood whatever I have discussed here. Feel free to leave in the comment section if you are not able to follow anything. I'll try to answer any questions related to this, and then I'm going to leave this question in the video, and I'll see how many people can answer this question. With that, thank you so much guys for watching, and please do click on subscribe and leave a comment.